Hi, everyone. Welcome to Short Film Saturday. We're so excited because it's Black History Month, and we're really happy that all our films for the month of February are from the continent of Africa. And we're making history today for Soleil Short Film Saturdays because it's our first film from Ghana, one of the places that I'm dying to go to. And so I would really ask you guys to just soak in all of this, all of this culture, all of this exploration. And we wanted to really be a celebration of Black History Month through film. And for Black people all around the world, like myself, this means a lot. This month means a lot because, discovering African culture, which is where we come from originally, is really important to our identity. So that's kind of my personal spiel of, why I'm a little more excited in February than maybe normal. But for all of you guys who aren't familiar with Soleil Space, so we are a media company in Brooklyn, New York, and our mission is to achieve a more equitable and representative global media landscape through film, TV, and branded content production. We launched our editorial vehicles and community vehicles through Soleil Space, the brand. Our production company is Soleil Entertainment. And so one of the things that we really have been doing is focusing on the global diasporas of Asia, Africa, Latin America, the Caribbean, and the Middle East. So in short, that's people of color around the world. And our goals are to elevate untold stories from these cultures. Some of these cultures are cultures that we come from, and always feeling like we never see ourselves authentically represented on screen. So the goal of this space is to form closer transcultural community bonds across diasporas and provide opportunities and resources for our creators to produce amazing content and to elevate creators who are creating amazing content. So this is in that vein that we are doing Short Film Saturdays. It's something that we introduced last year in the fall. And we've screened over 20 films already from filmmakers from over 15 countries. And so this is our first filmmaker from Ghana. The way that Short Film Saturdays came about was that we have a podcast called Soleil Spotlight, where we interview different filmmakers from these different cultures and we journey through their career. And a lot of them start out doing short films and they reference and talk about their short films, but no one could find their work. They hear this amazing story, but then people hit us up and they're like, why can't we watch the film? So we were like, okay, well, let's start showing the films. And that's how Short Film Saturdays was born. So without further ado, I want to introduce our filmmaker, Amartei Armar. Amartei is a product of a Ghanaian father and American mother. He found topics surrounding identity, immigration, and the human need to feel a sense of belonging, both utterly fascinating and conflicting, having spent most of his life moving back and forth between the two countries of US and Ghana. And you would definitely see this in the films you see today. So welcome, Amartei. Upon completing his BFA in film production at the University of British Columbia, he completed his first film, Arc, which went on to screen successfully at many international film festivals. Vagabonds, which is his first film shot in his fatherland of Ghana. I'll ask you about that fatherland reference, Amartei. Also went on to screen at several festivals around the world. Its highest achievement, winning the Oscar qualifying first prize award in the Short Film World Competition at the Montreal World Film Festival. In between directing and producing various types of films, Amartei spends his time writing stories of adventure. He is currently based in Ghana, in Accra, preparing to direct his first feature-length film. So, welcome. It's really great to have you.
Thank you so much. Great to be on board.
Yes. So we will be showing two films by Amartei today. The first is called Vagabonds, as I mentioned in his intro, and the second is I Like It Here. Just to give everyone a quick idea of how the run of show goes, is we will screen both films back to back. Feel free to comment in the comment section if you're enjoying it, say so. happy to have you guys, chatter during the film as we like to do. No problem. And after we screen the two films, then we will be doing a Q&A with Amartei, right? So we're doing this festival style. So what I will do now is let Amartei introduce the two films, and then we'll get on to the show.
Okay. Hi, Soleil family. My name is Amartei Armar, as you heard, and I am a Ghanaian American writer and director based in Accra, Ghana, which is, Accra is the capital of Ghana. I'm excited to show you these two short films I had the pleasure of making. The first is Vagabonds, a short film about two Ghanaian orphan brothers who are threatened to be separated. And the second is called I Like It Here, which is a sort of autobiographical story that captures the emotional displacement of a young Ghanaian American as he leaves his family and ailing grandfather behind in a local taxi in a hurry to catch the last flight out of Accra. I'm excited to be partnering with Soleil to bring you these two short films that are quite personal to me, and a big shout out to the cast and crew who made both of these films a special experience. Hope you enjoy, and speak soon.
All right. So I hope you guys enjoyed those two films as much as we did. When we first discovered these films, we were just so excited to see what the audience engagement will be on them. And you did not disappoint with your comments. So I can't wait to really get into this. But for those who are just joining us, this is Short Film Saturdays with Soleil Space. And today we're showing our first two Ghanaian films since we started this series late last year. And we are here with Amartei Armar, who is a filmmaker, director, writer from Ghana. So say hi to the new folks, Amartei.
Hi, how you guys doing?
Yes, thank you so much for watching. So we'll jump right into it. So starting with Vagabonds, which I told you, offline, now is one of my favorite shorts.
Thank you.
It left me very emotional. Even watching it again, I feel emotional because that sibling bond is so strong, and it made me think of my sisters and my brothers, and what if we were in that position? What would we do? So the big question first is, what inspired you to create this film?
My older brother. That was and I think it started from that point of we moved around to a lot of different homes and different schools, and I think we've been in 11 different schools before I was 18, and I think we've been in 9 different homes as well. So and also going back and forth between Ghana and the U.S. It was very much a sort of coming to terms with the idea that we don't have the sort of family home. Like where did we grow up, in a sense? There is not that house that we think about. So very much for me, family or home even represented, family wherever we were together, and that's that was one of the lines in the story, to basically say home is wherever we are. And also that idea that we didn't really feel particularly American, and we also didn't feel particularly Ghanaian, in the sense that culturally, at least, we, even though we might, have a very thick American accent, our minds, our mentality is very Ghanaian, and and also sort of Pan-African as well. So it's just it's seeing that in how we were brought up as well. It's like feeling like you're sort of in between two cultures, and therefore sort of belonging to both, but also belonging to none. And I think that the diaspora story is one that I feel is also kind of related to being a vagabond, in a way of you sort of you're wandering between sort of homes and places. So what can you tether onto? What can you sort of latch onto as a way to feel that you belong? And for me, that was my older brother. Wherever he was, I felt safe. I felt protected, and so the older brother, Wusu in this story, is very much modeled after my older brother.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, it's very much modeled after my older sister. I thought about her a lot,
Yeah.
and pictures of us growing up. And like all her postures in our pictures growing up is like protecting me somehow or
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
keeping me from getting into trouble, So
Yeah.
that really resonates. But in terms of the whole aspect of adoption, though, how did that come about? And it being orphans and being in this orphanage, was there something that inspired that?
Yeah, there was a moment, and this is actually also related to the feature film and how the feature film developed as well. It started from a child on the street. We have, in Accra, we have, I think over 100,000 street children, and this is like Accra, the city is like a population of a little bit over 1 million. So that's like
That's a
10%.
lot.
Yeah, that's a lot of kids, right? And for me, I've always grew up in that sense of respecting everybody, treating everybody equally. And I remember one night I saw a kid and he was, asking for money, and I asked him, "Oh, like, what's your name? And where are you from?" And he said that he told me, he's coming from the Volta region, but he can't remember his family name. He can't remember his last name, right? But he told me his name is Emmanuel, and I even said, "Oh, but Emmanuel, that's a very common name. Like, what's your Ghana name?" Like, I'm Amartei. I don't have a sort of English name, so which was something really important to my parents. And I asked him, like, what's his name, and when he said he couldn't remember it, like, it really, I was shocked, because in Ghana, the concept of family is very different than the Western concept of family, right? It's not just your, brother and your sister and your mother and your father. And even, it's not even your cousins and your aunties and it goes way beyond that, right? The nuclear family in our, cultural context is to a point where there's not ever even supposed to be orphans
Right.
or people without family. Just by me saying my name, most Ghanaians, if not, I mean, all of them who know will be able to say, "Oh, Amartei, okay, so you're a Ga, you're probably Gamashi. This is where you grew up. This is your grandfather. This is they can list, it's almost like a passport. They can tell everything about you just by,
Just by your name.
yeah. So it's
Wow.
really important. And then they can even connect you to, oh, that person, you're related to that person, this family over here, all of those. Yes, yes. And that, like when I was telling you about my producer and I, that's,
Yeah.
it's through the name, right? So
Right, right.
yeah, it's that to me was something that I found was sort of a point of conflict for me, in the sense that we have this culture that so heavily, revolves around family and the family dynamic, and yet through urbanization and a lot of the sort of, outside influences, we sort of,
Forces.
yeah,
Right.
we started to have this, you know, very, I mean, I don't want to go to the charity side of things, but there is that sort of the aid and this and that, where we almost are bringing down our cultural values to sort of fit a Western construct. And to me, I thought that, that was, I didn't quite like that. And I felt that to be in a situation or a setup and where, yes, you might go to a better economic sort of situation, but it's like it also, at the end of the day, this person has a family, right? This person,
Yeah.
and whether or not the parents, are around or not, a family is not just your mother and your father. It's
Right.
everybody. Even my dad's friend or my mom's friend are my auntie or my uncle. So I have to address them as such, give them that respect, and
Yes,
very much
that
so.
is something in Caribbean culture too.
Yeah,
Like you
yeah.
cannot call them auntie or uncle. Like that's just disrespectful to call them even by their first name.
Oh yeah, no,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, yeah. So
Well, this is a really good. I think
mhm.
I feel like you saw the questions before now because that was like such a good, like kind of prescient to this question. Because what I like about this film, like you touched on the whole Western hegemony, basically, right? And it does challenge our perception, particularly those in the West, of what's behind adoptions that happen in developing countries where it's often positioned as this Western savior you know, rescuing poor uneducated kids, which happen to be a lot from, you know, Africa. You know, those are the images we see a lot. And what there was resistance, right, within your narrative, that this boy, of course, he may not have known about all the geopolitics of anything. All he knew is that where his brother was, being with him was the best place that his brother could be, you know. So was there any intention to comment on the adoption system of Ghana? And, you know, was it more, like you said, more about kind of that concept of where home is, and that family is where home is?
Yeah, I would say it was more the latter part. You know, I didn't want to sort of go after social services or make it too political. I rather wanted to make it more of a cultural understanding, you know, coming as, and I think that it's coming from a sort of the privilege of being like observational, in the sense of, you know, when you grow in two different places. Even my producer has the, you know, it's why we can, you know, we bonded so well. Just him being in Nigeria and growing up enough there. I think he spent about 5, you know, or so years there. It's like you can get a sense of, this is how they do things, and this is how we, you know, in Ghana, this is how we do things. And you get it's like your mind expands a bit, because you can just see that there's not just one way of doing things, there's several, right? And so you build an empathy, I think, you know, in just by seeing that there's two different ways of thinking, right? And not necessarily, you know, going to where I have to choose a side, where which one do I think is a better way of thinking. It's rather that this way of thinking is there and it's valid, and this way of thinking is there and it's valid.
It's just different.
It's just different, yeah. And so for me, it was more of a critique on how, like, our cultural values are sort of being homogenized, right, into this sort of, you know, universal standard. But I feel like that's being led by, you know, sort of a Western idea of what family is, you know. And I feel like for me growing up, I've seen both sides, you know, and I think that I understand how, you know, in a situation maybe in the West, how it could work like that. But I always sort of stress this idea of that, you know, Westernization is not modernization, right? Modernization is essentially whatever, like, this is how we do our things here, and then we just make it better, but it's based off of the principles that we set in, you know, in play. So we're growing organically, in a sense of, this is what our culture is defined. So then even the systems that we have are based off of, and if we want to make a sort of system better, they're based off of our original sort of ideologies, right?
Exactly. You know what? I want to jump in on that, because you know what kind of brought that home for me was COVID, and the fact that, like, the pandemic just stripped back all of the things that we felt was modernization, and it revealed the raw primitiveness of society, right?
Yeah.
When the cultural and traditional elements and values, right? It like that, you know, it revealed that in many places that we think are modern, because of that cultural and value system, that there was actually less development in terms of the human aspect of it, in terms of how people kind of galvanize, share resources in a crisis, you know, things like that. Like, I just think you're touching on something that's so, it has deeper meaning now more than ever, I think, in terms of how different countries and different cultures have responded to this. But not to go off topic, but I just wanted to.
Oh yeah, no, that. I feel like that's still on topic. Yeah, that's absolutely it. You know.
Yeah.
I'm really glad that you picked up on that, and you also are adding to that as well. And I feel like, you know, it's something that we need to really identify for ourselves as well. Not to sort of, but there is one thing that I kind of, I don't know if you were going to ask this question, but it was a question that I did actually have before. And, you know, someone asked me, why did I make the adopting parents Black? You know, and the reason why I did, just to say why that was there, was just because it's kind of going into this idea of our relationship with the West, but more importantly with, you know, with Europeans and with whites as well, I didn't want to take the conversation that way. And I think the reason why I didn't is honestly because I think we see a lot of films, we have a lot of stories that are basically us and them trying to, like, you know, the
Yes.
sort of cliche of the greatest black love story is between a black man and a white man, or a black woman and a white woman. Like, how can we all get along, and you know, like, and bury the hatchet of,
Right.
you know, the previous 400 years kind of thing, right? And I think that there needs to be a sort of reckoning where we also look at ourselves, and we, you know, how do we work better with ourselves? You know, how do we understand what happened, you know, with ourselves, and forgive ourselves for, you know, everything that, you know, we've been through together. We're, you know, we're much closer, I think, you know, to each other, right, than to this sort of outside trauma, right? And I think that I just wanted to keep it more internal, you know.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Like, because it's I think it's a big problem in the Black diaspora is, you know, we have traditionally been so focused on, and it's changing. I think that awareness is definitely changing, where, you know, we've been so focused on how we look to white people, how white people see us, how we need to get along with white people. And it's like, you know, we have each other and we don't even understand each other's cultures or our heritage or our history or what you just taught me, right? While the film was screening about the whole like naming system and, you know, like we don't even understand ourselves. So I think that is like so excellent. And I did notice that the family was Black, right? But I think in my mind, it was still very much like, I assume that they did come from America.
Oh yeah,
and, right. And so for me, that was like kind of still a dichotomy that was very valid, if not more important. So I'm glad you pointed that out. I mean, we could go on forever about Vagabond. I'll ask you one more question on it, and then we'll go to I Like It Here.
Okay.
Everybody in the chat was talking about the child actors in the film. They were excellent. And working with child actors, I know as a producer, like it's no easy feat, right? So how did you communicate with them? Where did you find them? You know, and how were you able to get that performance out of them?
Wow. Well, how did we find them was, my producer, like I said, he's incredible, and he has a really good sort of idea network into where to look, first of all. And but we pretty much, you know, we went to churches, we went to schools, we went to actual orphanages. You know, a lot of the kids there, we actually found an orphanage that it was ran by a king, right? Like the king of Otanor, right? He's a Ghan king, and I feel like he has a sort of way in which he's modernized the orphanage system, or the sort of kids without parents system, where he sort of, as the sort of the ruler of that land, is sort of taking it upon himself to protect them, and then also make sure that they grow up in a well sort of environment and with an education, and giving them opportunities. And he's so proud of all of his children, and they love him, like they're like all of it, to see all these kids like love him, like, you know, and calling him dad, and you know, and he's so proud of them all. And every time we go, he says, oh yes, she just got a scholarship to this university, and now she's going to be playing soccer, or, you know, or football as we call it, but let's say if people call it soccer or football, just so there's no confusion. She's got a scholarship and she's going to play at the university level, and he's just beaming. And then this person over here, you know, like he's going to go to university. He's the first in his family to do so. And he's just, I think and the thing is, most of the kids that were in the film actually came from his orphanage, right? And so that was how we found them. And then with Tonti, who's Owusu in the film, we actually found him at a school. And when he came in, he just had this sort of natural intensity, because you know, with him, it's like in his look, and it's just in his sort of
his gaze.
And we loved him. You know, he told this. We asked him to tell us. He said he liked to write, and we asked him to tell us a story off the top of his head, and he told this beautiful story this 10-year-old kid, you know, camera on him, all these, a room full of adults. And actually, Nelly, you know, she who played Mame in the film,
Okay.
and she will definitely be making her appearance in the feature film as well, because we did have a lot of people ask, oh, we really like the girl. She was really, you know, she had that. She was she actually was she's the producer. She's Ike's niece. And I thought that for when we were auditioning kids, it'd be great to have a sort of another kid. She was 12 at the time, I think, 12 or 13. And to have another kid be there to sort of kind of calm them, you know, and make it like, okay, they're not just with all these adults. And it's like you have another kid in the room who's going to be running scenes with you. And
that's very cool.
Yeah. And so it calmed them down and made them feel kind of more relaxed and
more playful, like freer.
Yeah. But then out of the corner of my eye, I was looking at her like, whoa, like she's reading these lines very well. Like she's doing it, and she had such a great sort of character to her as well, and her natural. And I was just, and I leaned over to Ike and I asked, you know, I think we could use your niece for this role. And he was like, okay, but you know, I want to make sure that she auditions then, because I don't want to give any sort of special treatment. So she had to audition for us, and she did it really well, and she also got a part. And then Tanti, it was he didn't come back for his callback, and we were so bummed. We were so bummed. I think he forgot, you know.
Yeah.
And just by serendipity, he happened to live across the street from Ike, from my producer. Yeah, and he saw him, and he is actually he has an older sister, but then he has 3 siblings underneath him. Okay. And Ike was watching him, and he called me up and he said, Tay, this is the character. This is him. Because the way he looked after his younger siblings was like he was their second father. Right. And it was just amazing to see this 10-year-old with so much maturity and so much sort of, he was very stern.
Resolve. Yeah. Right. Yes. So he's in the feature film as well. Mm-hmm. Like you took both boys, both characters, and any of the other characters that you have in the feature. Like, does it just evolve from where the short left off, or I mean, you don't have to give it away, but you know.
Oh no! Look, okay. You know, we're working on it right now. Like I have it right here. We have the script is already here. So
awesome. Yeah, this is so good to know.
Yeah, but there's only really, I think, 2 characters. It would be Tanti and Nelly. Because so Tanti now is 15. So yeah, he's much bigger now, but he hasn't really had his growth spurt yet. So good. Fingers crossed that he's gonna hold off on.
Not in 2 months he will be like 6 feet.
Yeah. And Nelly who played Mama, she's gonna be in it. Asher, the young one, he's not gonna be reprising the role, only because with Jesse's character, the construct of his character was meant to always be someone who's 6, you know, very young, and now Asher's 11, so he's also a bigger kid now. So it wouldn't sort of fit within the way and that the story needs to fold out and
right. Got it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. But we really liked him, and he was adorable. Like he's one of those kids, you know, especially then, like he could just charm the socks off of anybody. Mm-hmm. Yeah, really, really cute. Really, like that's.
Yeah, he definitely pulled on the heartstrings, you know, and like it was good because, you know, the couple, and like he was that desired kid that they wanted, you know, and so he had that came across like on screen, was that he was that kid you see in the whole crowd of kids, and you're like, no, like I have to have him. Right? Yeah.
Your innocence, winning smile.
Yeah.
And, he's actually very mischievous and very, very smart in real life.
Okay.
And his audition, he too, like he passed it with flying colors, because it was really about his intelligence. He has a lot of intelligence, you know, and he was also he was 6 years old. So we just felt like, okay, awesome. It was So and then with acting, just to really quickly go through it. I used to be an actor, so we just played a lot of games.
Oh, okay.
And the games were first just sort of acting games, and then, but that didn't really, you know, make them aware that it was acting. And then
Right.
we shared a lot of stories. We wrote each other letters, like, and then yeah, we did sort of like premature blocking, but we never actually worked on the script until the day of. When it was time to shoot, that's when we did the script, reading. So then it was still fresh for them, saying the
Okay.
lines and everything, and just sort of knowing how each of them works. And for example, Tanti is a very action based actor. He has to say his lines, but if you give him something to do whilst he's saying his lines, then the way he'll say his lines will just be effortless. Like because he's not focused on the lines, he's focused on what he needs to do. So for example, the scene where he's running down the stairs, I just told him, whatever you do, just get by Kofi. Like that's it. Just
Right,
get
right.
by him, right? And Kofi is the taxi driver in the next film, and I like it here. Same guy, yes, but get by him. And the first couple of takes, he flew right by Kofi, like he didn't care. And so I had to even tell Kofi, and even Tanti had to tell Kofi, like, hey, if you don't stop him, like he's gonna go right by
He'll
you.
throw you down the stairs.
Yeah, going down the stairs. Yeah, so they actually had to. That was real. Like they actually had to sort of tussle with each other because he said, "I'm gonna go right." He told him, he looked Kofi dead in his eyes. "I'm gonna go right by you if you don't stop me." So it's like this kid, like, wow, what a method actor! He's like, "I'm going."
Yes.
So yeah,
But that's such a creative, it's so creative how you guys did that. That's really awesome that like, to keep it fresh for them and to make it natural for them. But I want to stop here and go to I Like It Here, because then we run out of time for that film. And this is such an interesting juxtaposition because as much as there was some heaviness to it, there was a lot of humor and a lot of drama, right? And so like feeling sad, watching it back to back was kind of fun because like feeling sad after Vagabonds, like I was emotional and then I was just dying at this taxi driver. So let's get into that a little bit. So what's the inspiration behind that? I think you touched on it. It seems very personal. So is that like an actual experience that you had? Like how did the narrative kind of draw from your own personal experience?
Yeah, so that is, almost quite literally what happened to me. Yeah, but I would say in different and not in the same day or same night, But yeah, it kind of the story where the film came from was actually first based off of the last conversation I had with my grandfather before he passed away. This was back in 2011. I was 20 at the time, so that's like a decade ago, and he basically the monologue that Techi gives he was one of Ghana's first doctors and he did travel the world. And when I spoke to him, I asked him where is his favorite place, and he responded to me, "I like it here," and like Ghana is his favorite place. And that was the first time for me that I felt I could just feel the sort of the I get like the resonance of the pride and seeing it, like you when you're a kid, it's like you notice, like you'll notice a difference between, okay, in America we have Universal Studios, Disneyland, all these toys, McDonald's, like everything, like it's like you're in the Matrix. You have everything, right? And when you go to Ghana, it's like, yeah, the food is better, it's different. For me, I always love Ghanaian food more. But it's like you can tell that, okay, yeah, our streets are not always paved, or this our infrastructure is not always that great, and you can see those things. And so it's just kind of like, or you grow up with that feeling of, you think that, okay, I love my country, I love my roots, I love my family in Ghana, but I feel that America is, let's say, infrastructurally better, right? It's more modernized and all these things. And I think that was the first time in my life that I saw that perhaps that's not the case. And perhaps that's, it really depends on how you see it. And so him opening my eyes to that really sort of changed my perspective of where I even thought I would live. After I graduated from university, I was still at university at the time. And I was pretty much thinking, oh, I'm going to go to LA, and I'm gonna, make films there, and I'll be one of the, I make it in LA, and I just sort of rep Ghana, but like I live in America, and I, because it's something that I know more so, right? And that was the first time that made me curious as to what made him feel that way,
Okay.
Yeah, and so that's what I've been searching for probably ever since, and I feel like I found it, and so now for me, I kind of see myself permanently in Ghana. I might work in other places, but my home will always be in Accra, or anywhere in Ghana, because Ghana is a beautiful country. I would even, encourage people to travel outside of Accra when they go to Ghana. So Kumasi and Tamale, and in the Volta region, you got, everybody that wants to go and visit Ghana should do so. They should see as much of it as possible. It's very beautiful.
Yeah, I haven't been, but that's definitely one of the top of, because we had to shoot in Nigeria and South Africa. So those were dictated by production, right? But if I had to have a choice, it would be Ghana, because most of the slaves that came to Trinidad, the first set of slaves were from Ghana and other select countries in Africa. So, and then you hear about that, right? You hear about like the Gold Coast and all of that. So it just feels like that should be, for everybody in the Black diaspora, it should be like the first entry point.
Absolutely.
To the continent is like returning home, and I know that's a big campaign too. So yeah, but you did a really good job. The travel ministry should hire you to promote Ghana. And one more question on I Like It Here. Why was black? So getting a little more technical. Why was black and white the chosen medium for this story, especially considering that it takes place at night? Was that hard to achieve in black and white?
Yes and no. We shot all the interior taxi scenes in the studio. And then the exteriors were, we just went around and shot, with a car mount and just placed the camera
okay.
on the taxi and just drove.
It was really creative.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. The point of view was excellent. Yeah.
Yeah. And we wanted to show Accra. Like, I also, that was one thing, we wanted to show Accra in a different way, and to show that, okay, we have a lot of things that you might think we don't have, and that was something that I really liked in terms of showing a different side of Accra. I think that in regards to black and white, it was really because I kind of wanted to one, mute all the colors so that there's only just these two. And it sort of represents the dichotomy within the sort of, how do you say?
The inner conflict.
The inner conflict between this, this guy who's both Ghanaian and American. And so it's like this black and white sort of just duality, the duality of the main character. And it also allowed me to hide things that otherwise people would see super easily.
Right. Yeah.
If you notice that the boxing gloves and the air freshener that's
hanging from the rearview mirror.
Yeah, it was a Ghanaian boxing gloves and an American sort of air freshener, like the flags, right?
Oh, the flag. Okay.
The flags of them, yeah. So when he's even having his monologue in the mirror, like in the rear view mirror, like they're right next to him, right? And it's like those kind of little subtleties. But it's like the thing is that you don't notice that because when the colors are muted and they're black and white, you don't see how they're so different, right? You actually start to see how they're quite similar, and you don't notice that they're there, right? And I felt like it's sort of, for me, that I like that sort of being able to hide these little Easter eggs in there to just say, okay, let's see who's going to spot this out. But also internally.
I need to look at it again and see if I see it, because I completely missed that. What I was looking at, which I think was your intention, right? Was what I was looking at was the rearview mirror itself, right? Yeah. And what was happening in the background. But what I really love is that, and I'm wondering if this was your intention too. So offline, we were talking about moving back to, you know, growing up somewhere else and then moving to a different place. So for me, I had moved to the US and I was for college, right? So I grew up in Trinidad and then I lived in the US for 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
So when I went back to Trinidad, it was very you know, a lot of things just annoyed me. You know, a lot of things annoyed me, a lot of things shocked me because the place had changed and I had changed. And so just in that short, I was connecting with the fact that like he was very annoyed by this taxi driver. There were a lot of kind of you know, well, in Trinidad, we say a foreign used Trini, like a foreign used car, you know, when you like you come back and there's like a bit of arrogance or a bit of expectation or whatever, right? And then you slowly kind of get back into that love for your country and appreciation of those very things. Was that something that you were like aiming for? Okay.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
I think it's a common thing. Like that's a lot of times when people would talk to me about the film, that's the first thing that they would mention is that, like, oh yeah, that taxi driver. Like we've all had that taxi driver.
Exactly.
Right?
Or that lady in the phone company.
Yeah. Just, you know, and they're sort of endearing. Like at first they might be really annoying, but it's almost like a very sort of out there, you know, sort of, you know, like the uncle or the aunt that just says anything. Yes. Like anything goes. Like they'll tell you like, oh, this and that, and they'll bring it up in front of everybody.
They'll tell you got fat. That'll be the first thing.
First thing, like no filter, right?
Right.
And it's just at a certain point, it becomes, at first it's very annoying, but at a certain point, it becomes very endearing because it's sort of letting you into their space and being so honest and open that you just feel like you too can also be that. You can sort of let your guard down because this person is sort of like just saying, you know, just giving you that vibe of, you know, look, we're all family here. So like, why is there need for secrecy or why is there need to shut each other out? Like, so they're not saying it to be mean. They're, you know, or they're not, you know, they're just sort of, they just want to know who you are. And I think one of the things of, you know, when I was in the West, actually, I kind of went through a little bit of, you know, of a sadness, of a depression or a melancholy in the sense that we're now so separated from each other. You know, when we're in the West, like everybody's got their headphones or they're looking at their phone the whole time, or there's very little eye contact. There's very little conversations with strangers. Everything is sort of automated. If I want to meet this person, I have to, you know, on an app first, and then
I'm filtering them by my own biases or my own, like, you know, agenda, basically. Yeah.
And like when you go to Ghana, there's that, like, it just cuts through that immediately. People are, you can, every day I meet somebody new, you know, like it's if I just go out and I walk around every day, I'm talking to somebody that I've never talked to before. I'm learning their name. You know, we're making jokes with each other like we've known each other forever. And it's just like, you know, at first, yeah, sure, you might want that sort of aloneness, or you're, you know, sort of I want to feel, but it's like you said, once you get used to that sort of the different cultural dynamic, you start to be more open. You start to drop your guard because you're home now.
You're home now.
Don't feel like you're fighting something.
Exactly. You don't feel like you're fighting. You don't feel like you have to protect yourself as much. You know, like, you need to write that part down. You're home now, because that, you know, that just captures that just really captures it. Oh boy, I didn't think I would get emotional all over again. But I'm gonna switch it up a little bit, and we need to allow the audience to ask some questions as well. But these are a little more rapid fire. So who are some of the directors or films even that you feel most influence your work? Is there anyone that you aspire to or draw inspiration from?
Absolutely. Mexican director Alejandro Gonzalez Iñárritu. He did Amores Perros, 21 Grams, Babel, Beautiful. But most people know him obviously by The Revenant and Birdman.
Yes.
I've been following him.
Oh, The Revenant was amazing.
Yeah. I've been following him since 2001, since I was 10. I watched this film, Amores Perros, and I was just like, wow. And it was my brother who actually introduced me to his films. So that was
Okay.
he's a really big influence. I just love how honest and how natural his characters are. And that's another thing, is just to have characters that don't feel like they're stereotypes of themselves. They're people.
Right.
And so he told a lot of stories based in Mexico, and you just felt like I'm watching someone that I can totally identify with, even though I don't speak Spanish, right? I mean, I learned though for 5 years, so I could kind of get it. But I'd never been to Mexico in my life. I didn't grow up there, and all these things that would have, you create these barriers of entry to sort of empathy. But through his, like, I just felt like, oh, I know a person like that. Oh yeah, I am kind of like that too. And even though this person doesn't look like me or sound like me, I really feel connected to them and to their story. So he's a big influence. Spike Lee obviously is a huge influence as well. You're probably gonna, in the next two films that we're doing now, like we're finishing up the post production, you'll definitely see a lot more of that sort of reference. In a spoiler alert, the director dress is
okay.
Yeah. So there's that. We actually had a director dress for I Like It Here, but I sort of I cut it at the end, because I was just sort of worried if people would get it or they wouldn't get it.
Right. Yeah. You need a little more space to kind of pay it off, I think. Yeah. Which is what Spike Lee does, right? Like, most of the time you have no idea what the hell that was about. And then it, you get it peels off the layers as the narrative goes, and then he comes back to it a lot of times at the end, the director dress. So it's a really good tool. But what you just talked about, it really kind of, I love to hear that, because like that's kind of what inspired Soleil, is that transcultural connection, understanding between diasporas of color globally. There's a lot that we have in common. There's a lot we don't understand about each other. So I think, like you said, there are people that you could recognize in a different culture who in your own culture, right? So that's pretty cool. So next question before we open to the audience, I want to get your take on being a Ghanaian filmmaker, but in a landscape, I would say more on a global level, where Nollywood and Nigerian films tend to dominate people's perception of African film just by volume, not so much by whether the films are great or not. Like most of the films from other countries tend to not be in the mainstream as much. They'll get the critical acclaim and all of that, but the everyday person doesn't get to see a lot of those films. And Nollywood is a little more on the popular side, popular film genre even. So what are some unique aspects of Ghana and its culture that you're trying to bring out in that context of that landscape?
I would say, my honestly, my agenda is really just to search for our humanity in all of this. Oftentimes I feel like when you have stories of, quote unquote minorities, which, we're not, like we might be minorities in the US, but in a lot of other places, we're the majority, right? And even our population, if you count all of us together, including the diaspora,
we are the majority.
We are the majority, yeah. So it's interesting how there's a sort of, we're either, how you relate to us is either through apathy. Like if something happens to one of us, it's like, oh, well, they probably deserved it, or you'll find a reason as to why to not care, or you care through pity, through sympathy. Oh, that's so sad. Look at these poor people, and it's so bad and it's so sad. But you rarely hear someone say, oh, I really identify, or I can totally relate to this, right? This feeling. And that's why even for Vagabonds, it was the trick there, and which was for me the hardest part, was how do we tell a story that would most certainly be taken in that way, these poor African kids, and how do we make it where we, we show our characters that have agency.
Exactly.
I think a lot of films that I've watched, and I'm not going to say which ones because but there are a few that I've
Oh,
like,
I'll say it if you want me to. I know
they're big
some of the ones
films.
you're probably thinking about. Yeah.
They're pretty big films. Most people
Right.
know them, but they would really sort of anger me in a way, even though they're really well-made films. It's like they would anger me because a lot of times the main characters, things just happen to them,
Mm-hmm.
right?
They're victims,
They're
basically.
victims, yeah. They just happen, and they have no agency. They have no choice in the matter, and they're just waiting for someone to save them, or to just say, "Oh, okay, your ordeal is done now. So now you can just sort of, but by no sort of agency or orchestration of your own, your ordeal is done because somebody decided to just stop,
And
right?
not just that, that somebody who decided to stop then becomes heroized.
Yeah, and and you sort of remove their sort of agency in that, and their sort of their and how they did it. Like a lot of people will say, oh, like Abraham Lincoln freed the slaves, and it's like, if you know your history, no, he didn't. Right? The slaves practically freed themselves. So by fighting in the Civil War, and by so there's a lot of that, and
Yeah.
I think that a lot of rewriting of history to sort of negate our impact, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I think that for me, it's really important to tell stories. I think that show that our humanity, that we are thinking beings and feeling beings, and that we have an idea of what is right and what is wrong, and that we have a choice in the matter. That we're
Right.
not just sort of waiting for a savior. We're gonna save ourselves, and I think that to me is really important.
Mm-hmm.
But it's something that I think every film does. Every film is really supposed to do. And it's so just interesting how when I see sometimes our narratives, it just feels like and oftentimes they're told by people that are maybe not from that culture, but it just feels like it's coming in a perspective of look at these poor people and what's happening to them. Won't you lend a dollar?
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
And it's just like all my life I've been I think what movies are supposed to do and films supposed to do is make you empathize and relate. And all my life I've been taught to relate to white people, for example, because their stories are not about how they're victimized or how
Their stories are positioned as empowering stories, right?
yeah
Like,
they
yeah, aspirational, empowering.
yeah
Even if they're evil, they
mhm,
have power in the
yeah
situation and choice. That's a really good way of putting it.
yeah
All right, so I'm gonna open it up for questions from the audience, and while those questions are coming through, I want to ask you, what's next for you? So you mentioned Vagabond, the feature. Give us an idea of when we might see that. The short films that you're working on, just give us a little tease of those. I wouldn't have you give it away because
yeah.
I'm sure everybody's dying to know, like me, what happens next. But
Okay.
yeah, don't give it
I'll
away.
save Vagabond for last, but yes, it is currently in sort of development right now in terms of pre-production. We're almost there, to officially start pre-production. But right now, I'll say it's still in the sort of development phase, and in terms of bringing all the pieces together. But yeah, our DOP, he's from Brazil. He came out
Oh,
to Location Scout with us last year in November. So we're yeah, the gears are turning, and but I'll give a little bit more on that after, because the first things that are probably going to come out are these two short films
okay.
that we're working on currently in Paris. So we partnered, my producer and I partnered with a French production company called La Luna, and they basically collaborated with us to create two films called Emre, which is Time and Chi, and Chuchue, which is in the olden days in Ghana. And yeah, they're both very different stories. Emre is about three different women, three different generations of women who sort of find themselves in a sort of spiritual landscape during the most important periods of Ghana's history. And Chuchue is about two fishermen's sons who struggle to cope with the loss of their eldest brother who was lost at sea. And so,
Hmm.
yeah, and it takes place in Teshi, in the fisherman's town of Teshi. So, and also
Okay.
stars a new kid as well. His name is Yehoada, which literally translates to God is big in Ghana, right? And he's also he was 8 years old when we shot, and yeah, he is another kid that I think people are going to be really impressed with. And also Idris Utanti, he plays his older brother. He plays one of the
okay.
Yeah, so and you get to see him in a different sort of way, which I think is really interesting to see his range. And a lot of the actors I work with are non-actors. They didn't come from any sort of formal training, and they're Yehoda is another one of my producers finds. He's actually a kid that is from Teshi, and yeah, he did a fantastic job, like incredible. People are still talking about, like, every time we take and people screen the film,
okay,
color grading for the sound design, they're always
right.
like, my God, these kids are incredible. And
so where are you timing wise with those? So it sounds like you're almost done with the shorts. Mm-hmm. So when will people when and where? Because I guess you'll be submitting to festivals and stuff. So let's just say when are you trying to get those premiered?
Let's say May, June.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, awesome.
Yeah.
Have you submitted to festivals, gotten any acceptances yet, or you're waiting?
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
We still have to do the mix and finish up with the sound design. We just finished the color grading.
Okay.
But now, yeah, we just left with the sound design and the mix. And but yeah, they're looking really good. Like, I would say this is definitely our best work, thus far. And I'm really excited for those. And yeah, we're definitely going to be submitting them to festivals first. I want to find a way to have something where we can sort of show it, so we don't have to wait so long, because usually with the festivals, it's like, okay, we don't want them to premiere anywhere first, and
it's the whole. It's a machine. The festivals have become their own machine. They were supposed to be. This is just my little critique, I guess. But they've kind of become their own kind of studio system. Yeah. In my opinion, and a lot of the films that get like selected for festivals, half of them, maybe 3/4 of them, are considered because of relationships, and then maybe like 1/4 of them are actually just based on merit, and festivals doing the actual work, right, to like find films and watch all of them and all of that. Obviously it varies from festival to festival, but some of the big ones that we've been a part of that submission process, it's a campaign. It's not just submitting the film, which in itself, it just defies the whole purpose of why the festivals exist. Yeah. So I hear you on that. But once the work is good, it's going to break through, and it will premiere at the right time with the right audience. So just keep the faith on that. So we have a couple questions from the audience. One is okay. Was the second short shot in black and white, or was that done in post-production?
That was done in we shot on the red, so technically, with digital, it is shot in color. I mean, we saw how it looked like in black and white when we were shooting, but the information would have definitely been red in color. Yeah.
Okay. And then someone also wants to know, what advice will you give to aspiring filmmakers who want to, or filmmakers in general, emerging filmmakers who are just doing their first short, or just trying to write their first feature? What advice would you give based on the experience you've had so far?
I would say the best advice that I can give is one, if it's your very first, I would say find a really good producer. And I think make it a family thing. That's even now, even if it's your 10th feature or short, right, or first film, is that you want to be surrounded by people that you can trust, with your life, because you probably will have to trust them with your life at any given point, with your mental health, with your physical health. You know, a lot of time I've been in the hospital a few times because of a film, you know, and just sort of like really pushing yourself to the limit. And I think that when you have a sort of a team that you put together, I think it needs to be based on that solid sense of friendship, family, and there has to be a lot of trust involved. So you really want to have people that it doesn't matter about the experience, you know, that the person might have. They might have done nothing, like they might have done 0 films before. Even as a producer, they might have done 0 films before, but it's a learning process. Everybody's going to learn on the job. And if they're passionate and you trust them and they trust you, they will go through brick walls and make magic happen, because they just believe in it. And I think that that's more important. A lot of people might say, oh, I want to get this DOP because she or, you know, he or she are really da 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 da. I want to get this producer. Just get the people that you feel like I could, if we have to go to the trenches together and we're going to, this is the film,
who will be in the trenches with you and who will do it from the very beginning, right? Because a lot of producers that are more advanced in their careers, you are one of many directors that they're working with. You are kind of you know, what's the word I want to say? You're a bit of a colorful speck on their portfolio, right? It's kind of like, oh, well, there's some talent here just in case they blow up. Not everybody, but particularly in Hollywood, like that's kind of a mentality. So I think that is really, you know, coming from a producer myself, that is really, really good advice, especially as a first-time filmmaker. And once you guys make great work, then you would find the right people who have leverage and who have influence to support you. But the great work isn't going to come if that partnership doesn't exist, right?
Exactly. Yeah, you got to make with people that you love, and then tell your story. You know, a lot of, even my own mistake when I started making films at 17, and you know, with just like a camcorder and a group of friends, right? And for me, I would say, you know, the first sort of ideas that I had were more of, what do I think an audience would want, or what do I think people would like to see? And I think the more you are yourself, the more true to your, you know, your values and to who you are as a person, and even the more specific you are about certain things, the specificity becomes universal.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
As close as possible to what you've actually gone through that you can put in there, the more people can relate to it. The more that, you know, you'll be surprised that it's like, oh, like me too. Like I've done, you know, I know exactly what that feels like. And it's like, you know, a lot of times if you try to make it like, oh, I'm going to make this, you know, super interesting concept that I think will really hit, it's like, maybe most people, they might not relate to that. And I think that now more than ever in the age of content creation, you know, it's to be as close as possible to your actual experience, you know,
to the
because
truth.
the truth is stranger than fiction, and people will be able to identify that more than when they feel like, oh, this is like you're angling on a cliche, or you're angling on something that you feel like you've read in a book that would work.
Right.
You know,
right.
Be really true.
And be different too, right? If it is something that's risky, that's the thing that's gonna make this stand out. That's the thing that's gonna make this feel new and fresh and give your audience a different discovery, right? So sometimes people kind of think of the market first, of like, you know, who am I making this for? But unless your market are the people that you're telling the story about, you're gonna lose your way, you know. So I think, oh my gosh, I think you have really, really good pearls of wisdom here. Okay, so we have more audience questions. I want to make sure I don't leave anybody out. We can't ask all of them today, but this one was sitting before we prompted. So so I think this is on I Like It Here. Someone is curious to know why why did the main character was in Ghana? Was he living there for a while? I think you answered that, or just visiting. Did he decide to stay in the end? Well, I guess it's based on you, so that's how we know that you stayed, right?
I mean, yeah, it's based on me, but I would say it's also, you know, what does it instill or inspire in the person watching? What do they think? Because, you know, some might say that, oh, he probably went back. Some might say, okay, he went back, but maybe he's thinking about moving back permanently or moving back. And but you know, for me, I like sort of I think that's probably a trope of mine is I like cutting off films right at the point where something might be answered. We actually shot a scene after that moment where the film ends because it ends kind of abruptly, and I kind of like that. You know, with all my works, is that it just sort of ends, and you know, because I feel like a film is basically a slice of a larger story. You know,
Right.
and that you can't tell the entire story. You know, for me personally, I don't even like stories that sort of end with like, and then that's it. You know,
Right. Yeah.
yeah, it's more of like, no, the story continues. So what's going to happen to him? What's going to happen to even the Vagabonds, the feature film? If people were sort of like, when that film ended, it's like with the feature film, it's going to be
Yeah.
the same thing.
So
You know?
are you
Yeah.
thinking of doing a feature file like it here too then? Since that's not the end of the story.
I'm thinking about doing a series on it. Yeah, like, but
That's
not.
actually that would be a great format for it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm thinking
Okay.
about doing a series on that. Yeah.
Okay. Another question. So this will have to be our last one because I mean we're having fun, but I want to respect your time as well. Um, is it hard to get your films financed? And what advice do you have for filmmakers specifically when it comes to getting financing? That's always the $1 million question, right?
Yeah, literally. um, I would say you gotta show that you believe in yourself first before you ask others to believe in you. And so that oftentimes means that you have to finance your own films, you know, first. Like the first couple, you're probably gonna have to do, and you have to look at them like they're investments, and you know, they're investments to even show that why you deserve to have other people finance your films, right? So, for example, Arc and then Vagabonds, and even I Like It Here. That was a lot of my own money, right? And I think that but those sort of enabled me, and you know, my producer as well, who also that was a lot of his own money, and he was able to take that though the film, especially Vagabonds, and that's how we were even able to get this collaboration with you know this French company here. They saw Vagabonds, they loved it, and they were like, "Oh, what do you guys got next? We would love to work with you." And that's how these two short films and now even the feature films are coming about. Is that okay? You know, we're sort of it's like everything is gradual. It's baby steps, right? You know, in terms of and yes, so you have to be patient, but you also have to say, okay, I first am going to believe in myself, and I'm going to you know save up, work you know, it could be a summer job, it could be you know, you just put some money aside, and say I'm going to make, and this is the film that I'm going to make. I'm gonna, you know, and this is how much money I'm gonna have, and you'll find out very quickly. Like I said, even if you have a producer on and you say, okay, this is the amount of money we have, you give them the money, and they even have to, you know, the both of you will even probably be looking at, okay, what can we afford with this and that, you know, and even if you make I think my first film was like I think 2,000 or 3,000 Canadian dollars, right? And it was just saving up, and that was Arc, yeah, and that was a very probably ambitious film when I think about it, right at the time, because I
You
was a
didn't
student.
send us that one. You need to send us that one just so
I'll
we can
definitely
see
do
what
that.
it was.
Yeah, I'll definitely link you to that one. That one, it's very ambitious, and that one I didn't have a producer. I had to produce it myself, you know, and so it was really really tough, you know, because it was such an ambitious project. I feel like a lot of my colleagues were, you know, my classmates were like, we're not touching that. And then, but you know, in the end, you know, I won at the school festival, which we have. I won best director, best writer, best cinematography from my cinematographer, and best editing from my editor. She you know, she really helped me with that in crafting the story. So yeah, like sometimes, you know, you also, that's another thing, go big or go home. Like you know, like just tell the story that you want to, that really speaks to you, finance it yourself, and just, yeah, give it your all. Like, you know, and, you know, never give up, and just keep going. That's it. It's just, you just keep going and you'll find the money. Like, as long as you're really passionate, as long as you know that you're willing to invest yourself and people see that, you know, it's like, again, like if you're willing to put down your own money, then that is a big signal to other people that, hey, like, okay, they're serious about this.
That's what I was that's the one thing I would like, you know, co-sign, you know, underline, bold, red, is when people see that you're putting skin in the game. Now, with that said, though, it is worth acknowledging that everybody doesn't even have skin in the game to put. You know what I mean? I don't have any surplus resources and really want, but you know, then it's that kind of metaphor of like using what's in your hands, right? Do you have a phone? Do you have, like, could you like scrape some money just to get a camera and start shooting? And, or you have a hand, you have a pen, just start writing. You may not know how to write a script in, you know, the 3-act structure and all of that, but you can write a short story and then research how to adapt it into a script, you know? So it's the hard way for sure, but it's definitely, I think, great advice that, especially when you're a filmmaker from cultures, from developing countries, you know, waiting for someone to just say, hey, I want to throw a lot of money at that story. Like, you know, it's changing a little bit, but it still is very few and far between, because they're still going to have an idea of what story they want you to tell when they do that from the very beginning, as opposed to when you put your story out there and have people buy into it and be confident in it. So, wow, Amartei, we should do like a Ask Me Anything with you one day, because I think you have so many stories. Like you have a story for everything, which I love. And I personally learned a lot from you today. So thank you so much for being here. Thank you for these awesome films that you did, and can't wait to see the ones that you have coming up. Let us know how we could support you in any way.
Absolutely. I'll definitely send them through, and I'll give you guys, you know, a private link. The Soleil, I'm part of the Soleil family.
You are now, yes.
Yeah, you have VIP access to a direct link to anything that I do now. So I'll definitely,
sure.
Hit you guys with a link and be like, oh yeah, check this out.
Yeah, we'd love to. And, you know, just so you know, that's kind of one of the goals of Short Film Saturdays. We did a screening with you alone today because you had two shorts and they were both very strong. And they kind of fit with the Black History Month programming that we were doing. But we also, whenever we pair filmmakers together, we actually do it with a lot of intention of filmmakers that we think would love to meet each other. So we're trying to make creators from different parts, to learn from each other, collaborate, you know, that kind of thing. So there's a community that's just naturally building through just the 20 odd so films that we've shown so far. So if there's anybody from our orbit, you know, that you want to connect with, just let us know. All right, so I'm gonna All right, so we're going to close now. So for everybody, the next Short Film Saturday is February 19th. This will be our second screening in partnership with Nollywood Week Film Festival in Paris. We'll be showing 2 short films by Thomasin Adepoju, a British-Nigerian filmmaker based in the UK. So if you want to stay tuned for what's coming up, there's a lot more to come. In March, we're celebrating Women's History Month, so we'll have a lineup of all female filmmakers from all over the world. So like and subscribe to the YouTube channel here. We'll have this Q&A with Amartei posted next week, so you can watch it and share it with your friends. And so if you're a filmmaker who is interested in being part of this program, send us a link send us your film, back via the Film Freeway link below to submit your film, and follow Amartei at Amartei_Armar, spelled AMARTEI _ARMAR on Instagram. Follow Soleil at Soleil Space, but all the information will be there for you to see. So thanks again, Amartei, so much. Nice to meet you.
Thank you too. Thank you so much.
Thank you. This was awesome.
I'm honored and humbled. So yeah, to be speaking with you here, and I can't wait for to have this again. This was great.